Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. By now, I bet you've heard about the bill to ban TikTok, or at least force it to be sold away from the Chinese, which was passed in the U.S. House of Representatives, and has a pretty good shot of being passed by the Senate and signed by the President. And this has left many people with differing opinions arguing on the internet, as always, about is this right or is this wrong? But there's a question that a lot of people are wondering that's become more prominent, which is, why now? Obviously, the story that's been told, and what is alleged to be the most prominent reason, is the fact that the app collects data and sends it directly to the Chinese government. So that itself is a good reason to ban the app, is that it gives information and data on the interests, behaviors, personalities of American citizens to our number one geopolitical foe. Also, it gives the Chinese government the ability to use their algorithms to directly affect what people in the US see, and that's a major concern for children. TikTok is one of the most prominent places where people get their information, and it's a huge driver in the determination of the culture in our country. And so people are worried, our government officials explicitly, that the Chinese government, through TikTok as a mechanism, can directly affect the culture in the United States. If you look at the comparison between the Chinese TikTok and the US TikTok, it's a night and day difference. The Chinese TikTok is all about respecting your parents, working hard, studying, being a good citizen. And then the US TikTok is more about humor, typically a very liberal-sided agenda, any sort of more cultural aspects versus aspects about self-improvement and intellect. So for that reason, I'm in favor of banning it. However, I am not somebody who's hard-hearted to the fact that TikTok is important to a lot of people. It's a source for income for a lot of people, including people I know personally. People use it as a job now. It's a great source of information for tips and tricks and all sorts of things. It's a good way to quickly share information. All of those are good, and I think it's good to have mechanisms like these, but I don't think that outweighs the detriment of giving your number one geopolitical foe direct access to the minds of your children. And as we've seen before with things like Vine, they die, something else replaces it. If TikTok dies, Instagram Reels will pop off and some other platform will take its place in the next coming months. And I would encourage all creators to re-download their content to upload it to another platform when that time comes, if that time comes. But like I said earlier, there's another question that's becoming more prominent, not just the reasons behind why the government wants to ban it. Why now? There's been talks about banning TikTok for years, but why now is there this huge push, this bipartisan movement? I mean, you saw in the House of Representatives, the bill passed 352 to 65. Incredibly bipartisan. Well, a lot of people online seem to think they have the answer. And that answer is that right now on TikTok, the platform is being used to overwhelmingly support Palestine over Israel in the Gaza war. Now, many of you might be wondering, what is the connection there? That doesn't make any sense. What does Israel have to do with this? I thought it was all about China. Well, in the United States, right now, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are overwhelmingly in support of Palestine over Israel. In fact, I've seen estimates anywhere from pro-Palestinian content gets shared 5 to 15 times more than pro-Israel content on the platform. And this has left many people panicking, especially our lawmakers, because as we know, a disproportionate amount of our lawmakers are Jewish, many have dual citizenship in Israel, and even the chief executive of the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, is terrified, as you can tell in this leaked audio recording.
But I also want to point out that we have a major generational problem. All the polling I've seen, ADL's polling, ICC's polling, independent polling, suggests this is not a left-right gap, folks. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And the numbers of young people who think that Hamas's, massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, fast. Because again, we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation. And the Hamas and their accomplices, the useful idiots in the West, are falling in line in ways that are terrifying. Lastly, I'll just say, we saw a dramatic change in the language of the activists here in America on October the 8th. The language of groups that we've long tracked, who've long been problematic, like Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voices for Peace, they flipped like this and went to like Iranian propaganda. The language I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups. We saw this again on October the 8th. It was that fast. Like the language in their toolkits was all about the Zionist entity and lots of other language that we recognized from Iranian propaganda.
So as you can hear in that recording, he is actually absolutely right. There is a huge generational gap between support for Israel and support for Palestine. And as we saw with the vote in Congress, it's not a left-right issue. It's a generational one. And so he's saying that we have a Gen Z problem, a little ominous. And then he also says that people who support Palestine are useful idiots in the West. Kind of a rude thing to say. But yeah, Israel should be a little scared by this. They're losing support constantly because of their actions. And let me say this again, as I've said on this channel before. I'm pretty neutral on the Israel-Palestine conflict. I can understand where both sides are coming from and why they are determined to fight. However, in the eyes of the people, specifically young people who've been taught their whole life about colonizer and colonized, Israel losing roughly 1,500 civilians does not compare to Palestine losing 30,000 civilians, 10,000 of whom are children. In the eyes of the people, in the court of public opinion, that seems like way, way, way overkill. And so you have the young, sympathetic liberals on the left who see the Palestinians as being colonized, but also combined with the young conservative far right who say, this is not our problem, we should not be involved, we should stop giving money to Israel to bomb people because it's not our business. Those two sides have combined on this issue and made it a generational one. Overwhelming support for Palestine, severely diminishing support for Israel. So Israelis and Jews are panicking about this. They're terrified, and they're not sure what to do. And so what's the main platform where these pro-Palestinian ideas are being propagated and shared? TikTok. So they want to ban TikTok. Now, you still may be thinking that seems like quite a stretch. This connection between Israel and TikTok still seems a little bit sparse for me. Well, listen to this. According to the Jewish Federations of North America, representing hundreds of organized Jewish communities, they said in a statement that their support for the bill is rooted in concerns about anti-Semitism on the platform. The Jewish Federations and Anti-Defamation League have accused TikTok of allowing anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment to run rampant. So these two organizations, the Anti-Defamation League, which you've probably heard of, and the Jewish Federations of North America, are both concerned, putting out the statement that they're very concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism on TikTok. And so how can you eliminate that rise in anti-Semitism in their minds? Well, you ban the platform where it's allowed to spread, even though support for Palestine doesn't necessarily mean they're anti-Semitic. Some people look at this as a country issue, not a religion issue, or a race issue. But I digress. So that may be why this is happening right now. These major Jewish lobbies in the country have seen a scary rise in sentiment that goes directly against their interests, and so they want to do everything in their power to eliminate that sentiment. And naturally, another question arises from this. What happens if they ban TikTok, which is currently controlled by another country's government, and instead have either a US company buy it out, or there's another platform that's American-made? Will these prominent, powerful Jewish lobbies try to censor anti-Israel sentiment on the platforms? That's another question. Since they're so terrified by this prospect, will they lobby Congress to pass bills that expand the outreach of what you can question Israel on, or you can say in questioning Israel's actions or beliefs? Or will they use an algorithmic change to directly filter out any pro-Palestinian content, ban any pro-Palestine accounts? This banning of TikTok could be a double-edged sword. On one hand, the government regains control about what can be shown to the youth in our country. On the other hand, the government regains control about what can be shown to the youth in our country. So this is a matter of who do you trust more, the Chinese government or our own government? Personally, I trust our own government a little bit more, but it's not by much. At least we have freedom of speech here. So this leaves many questions about the intentions and the future of TikTok and other platforms like these. To me, I see both pros and cons for the average person, which to me is the most important thing when looking at any of these policies. How does it affect the average American citizen? I don't like the propaganda being shown to our children, as a generality, not specifically tailored to this issue, but I also see it as a vital tool for information, and it allows people freedom of expression and an alternative path for people to generate wealth for themselves. So let me know, what do you think about this? Do you think I'm onto something here? Do you think Israel is involved in trying to ban TikTok? Are you concerned about China's control over TikTok and the data they collect and the messages they spread? If it was up to you, would you ban TikTok? Let me know all that down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.